Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone out there. This is the big campus face-off. India today is taking the battle for 2019 to the young millennials, to the youth of this country, the first-time voters, 18 to 23, getting them to ask their questions to our leaders. And we are kicking this off in the prestigious and historic Hindu College in Delhi University. Let's then straight start with our two guests today, who will be answering the questions of young India. Please welcome someone who is a distinguished alumni himself of Delhi University, St. Stephen's College, Congress Member of Parliament from Thiruvananthapuram, one of the country's leading public speakers, best-selling author. Please welcome Shashi Tharoor. And to face off with Shashi Tharoor is a minister in the Narendra Modi government, Minister for Housing, former diplomat, and someone who's been a proud alumnus of this very college. Please welcome Hardeep Singh Puri. Okay, the rules are very clear. As we enter the election season, we want these two distinguished gents to convince you, the young, as to who to vote for. We're going to stick to a timer, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Tharoor. You have 2 minutes to convince this audience as to why the young of India should be voting for the Congress party.
Well, first of all, because the government in office does not deserve a second term. It has sadly broken every one of its promises. It has proceeded, having pledged 2 crores of new jobs every year, to give us net unemployment as a result of its time. And young people have been particular victims of this government, with the Centre for the Monitoring of the Indian Economy telling us that 11.5 million jobs, that is 1.1 crore, have been lost in the course of last year alone in this country. In addition, the Congress party is a party that comes to you not pretending to know all the answers, but determined to work with you to find the solutions, with capable, experienced people who can think about the future, your future. We believe in the demographic dividend. We believe we can fulfill that dividend if we skill, train, educate, and equip you to meet the challenges and opportunities of the future. Sadly, this government's skill development program has been a complete flop. Most of its efforts have consisted of the fabled jumlas and not enough concrete action and results on the ground. The kind of setback to the economy we saw with demonetization, the cow vigilantism and the spreading of division and hatred in our society between different communities, these will all be things of the past in the Congress party comes to power. So I urge you all to think in terms of the future, to put behind your backs the mistakes of the last few years. Mistakes have been made, there's no reason for us to repeat them. Let us instead put qualified, capable people in charge of this country, people who believe in an inclusive India, believe in liberalization and growth, but in distributing the fruits of that growth to those who lack what they basically need to survive, believe in social justice, believe in inclusion, and believe in progress. That's the Congress party. Vote for us.
Hardeep Singh Puri of the Bharatiya Janata Party, your 2 minutes start now. Why do you think the young should be voting for the BJP Modi-led government?
Thank you, Rajdeep. I spent 5 happy years in this college, and then I walked across to be on the teaching faculty of St. Stephen's College for 1 year. So I'm delighted to be back amongst my own, in my own home, and I can... In 1947, when we became an independent country, the struggle which got us independence, this college provided a platform for the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, and all the nationalists came here in order to provide views to the young people and reach out to them in an institution which was founded in the 1890s. Since 1947, my friends in the Congress party have had an almost uninterrupted reign, and they have controlled political power. But that political power has not been exercised by a democratic entity. It has been exercised by different members of the same family. And if you are interested in democracy, and that is what I think this is all about, you ought to start by giving those who are not part of the inner coterie, not part of the family, to also get a chance at exercising power. Mr. Modi and the people around him have humble origins, but they are clear that the philosophy of governance is anchored in the philosophy of Antyodaya, to the farthest first. So whether it is a question of urban development or it is a question of development per se, it is all about taking the fruits of development to the poorest of the poor, providing electricity to the villages, providing toilets, providing housing, providing health insurance. So if you are interested in development, believe me, my friends,
your time is up. Your time is up.
And
Hardeep
your vote
Singh
for the
Puri.
Bharatiya Janata Party.
I was very interested in the manner you played the emotional card, reminding this Hindu-dominated audience that you were from the school. You get a minute to rebut. You get a minute, Shashi Tharoor, to rebut what you heard. Hardeep Puri claiming that the Congress is a party of privilege, of dinners. They are the party, in a sense, of the Kamdars versus the Namdars.
Well, my good friend Hardeep Puri began by telling us how happy he was to be home. We want to send him home, away from the government of India. We'll be much happier, much, much happier. I just want to tell you why he'll be happy, because the reasons he gave are precisely the reasons why we want his government out. He spoke of Mahatma Gandhi having had a platform at Hindu College. This is a government which, along with its illiberal followers, has completely discredited everything Mahatma Gandhi stands for. On the anniversary of his martyrdom, the Hindu Mahasabha General Secretary, a supporter of this BJP government, fired 11 bullets into an effigy of Mahatma Gandhi. All they've kept, I can tell you, are the glasses of Mahatma Gandhi in the Swachh Bharat campaign. The substance is gone, only the glasses remain. Let me also tell you in the 10 seconds that are left that this government may be proud of its humble origins. We are proud of having created the democratic institutions that allowed a person of humble origins to become Prime Minister. We're proud of that. And as far as we're concerned...
Your time is up. You want to respond to what he said?
The Congress party and my distinguished friend, whom I've known for many years, both here in New York, elsewhere, they are the masters of the fake narrative. They produce a set of positions and then they lie around it. No matter which way you look at it, who is communal? When the BJP has been around in any state or in Delhi, there's not been a single communal riot. And when did communal riots take place? When you have Congress governments. Number two, when you talk of jobs, the economy today is a $2.7 trillion economy, becoming a $5 trillion economy by 2025. We are growing at 7.5%. If you look at what is happening, maybe you are not able to measure it, but you cannot say that no growth is taking place. And what is more important, you see the growth in terms of the growth of the civil aviation sector, the number of roads built, number of homes built, but they are capable of producing a false report, something called the NSSO, which is not even verified, and then they go to town saying that unemployment is very high.
Okay. I think we've got preliminary. These are only preliminary opening remarks. Let's go straight to the students, because this is your occasion to question them. My first question is coming from Staines Pal. Staines Pal, please take the stage and take your question.
India's jobless rate shot up to 45-year high during 2017-2018. NSSO showed unemployment rate at 6.1%, the highest since 1972-73. Can the politicians stop focusing on Mandir Masjid issues and focus on the real issues here? Where are jobs for us?
Why don't you take that since you raised the NSSO issue at the start?
I anticipated the NSSO question because that is a false narrative which has been put out. The same NSSO report says there has been zero urbanization. Hey, wait a minute. If the NSSO report is correct, then the 6.84 million jobs we produced through Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana or through building roads or building ports, none of it is visible. So please don't be easily led by something which is not even an approved report. This morning they leaked something of an internal note from the Defence Ministry. It said that the Prime Minister's office had been interfering in the negotiations for the Rafale acquisition. It turned out later they had cut out the lower portion of the note. It turned out the Raksha Mantri himself had said that this is about something else. It was about a sovereign guarantee, not about the price negotiation. So beware, this is a great party, the Congress party. They helped us in getting independence. But after independence, they got tied down to the coattails of one family. In the last election, there were 44 seats out of 540. In the next election, they'll be wiped out completely. So take your pick.
So you are claiming that the NSSO report of a government department itself is a false report.
It was not
Your own government report is a false report.
It was not declared. It was not declared. It was not
verified.
It was not verified. Look,
it is never. No NSSO.
You are also claiming.
No NSSO report is ever verified.
Just a minute. And you are also claiming that N. Ram of the Hindu, his report on the Rafale deal is a fake narrative.
Absolutely fake narrative, and he has proved it today by publishing something which again shows that Mr. Ram is a participant in the political discourse. He is a liberal and he's not going to be objective about this government.
Okay.
So we'll have to deal with Mr. Ram also.
You'll have to deal with it.
Yes,
that sounds ominous.
We have to counter the narrative.
Shashi Tharoor, whether, according to them, whether it's NSSO or whether it's Rafale, the Congress is pushing a fake narrative to discredit the government.
This is simply not true, by the way. It is false to claim that the NSSO report needed verification. It does not. No NSSO report in the history of independent India has needed verification by the cabinet. It is a technical document issued by a professional body. So this is complete nonsense. The report was issued. Yes. And what is more, the refusal of the government to issue the report led 2 of the top 3 statisticians to resign in protest, ending their careers. That is what is happening in our country today. We have a government that has fudged the numbers of the GDP, fudged the numbers of growth rate, wants to fudge the unemployment figures because they cannot face up to the truth. The truth, I'm very sorry to say, you can obscure it by taking up other issues. I'll be happy to address Rafale in a second. But the truth is, unemployment is high. The young man who asked the question, Staines Paul, let me tell him that not only is 6.1% the worst in 45 years, but if you look at young males, it's 15.7% for those 15 to 23, and women are 27.8%. For young people, that's the problem.
Your time is up, but before I come to the next question, the question that was posed, can the politicians stop focusing on Mandir issue and focus on the real issue here? That's what he asked.
This is a set of politicians which is focusing only on delivery of goods and services. The politician is talking about actual figures. I have not come across any government in the world or in India which subjects itself to so much self-scrutiny as we do. We are willing to share with you all the figures, where all the employment has taken place. Please see Prime Minister's statement in Parliament yesterday where he went sector by sector, recalling the growth. You cannot get 7.5% growth. You can have a bad statistician, you can have a flawed report, you can have flawed methodology, but you can't put a fake narrative on it.
Okay, so all the reports, CMIE, NSSO are all fake reports according to...
There may be methodological flaws in them. You need to deal with them if you want the truth.
You have to respond to Rafale. According to the government, on Rafale too, you are deliberately spreading a fake narrative.
Listen, he's accusing Mr. Ram of spreading a fake narrative because Mr. Ram quoted the statement by the Deputy Secretary in the Defence Ministry saying that the government was conducting parallel negotiations with the French at the PMO level, thereby undermining the negotiating stance of the MOD, and then the comment by the Defence Secretary to the defense minister, said, please tell the PMO to stop doing this. It's causing us a great deal of damage. Otherwise, they should basically fire the existing negotiating team and construct a new negotiating team under the PMO's leadership. To which the minister replied, that's what our minister Hardeep is telling us, that the minister replied saying, no, they're just supervising the process and finding out about it with regard to sovereign guarantees. You can actually clarify this with PMO yourself. Now, the question that the objection he's raising and the comment of that minister obscure the central problem, which is while an official Indian negotiating team headed by the Deputy Chief of the Air Force is actually out there talking to the French, the PMO is also talking to the French in parallel.
For heaven's sake, a price negotiating
it's the parallel parlays. It's the parallel parlays that were
I'm surprised at the level of ignorance being displayed here. A price negotiating committee negotiates price. A sovereign guarantee has to be discussed and negotiated by the sovereign. Now the defense ministry has to do its job. Let me explain. There is a department which is the demander, which wants the aircraft. Then there is the defense ministry which sets up a price negotiating committee which negotiates the price with the vendor. And then when that is completed, you need a discussion on the sovereign guarantee because the government to government involved. And that government is not the defense ministry. It has to be the sovereign, the prime minister's office on this side and the president's office on the other side.
Okay.
So please don't muddy the narrative if you're not aware of the facts. And Mr. Ram, as a senior journalist,
Your time is up.
somebody who negotiated Beaufort should have known it.
Your time is up.
Clip the lower portion of the note.
Your time is up. Okay, we moved very quickly.
The narrative is muddy because there is a lot of dirty mud around this Rafale scam.
Okay, we moved very quickly from jobs to Rafale. I want to come to the next question.
We have said let there be a joint parliamentary commission investigating it.
Okay.
Ours is not the last word.
Let's come to the next
let there
question.
be an investigation.
The next question, Akshita has a question. Akshita, where are you and what's your question? Go ahead.
With the coming of Priyanka Gandhi in the mainstream politics, does Congress feel that Rahul Gandhi will not be able to live up to the Modi challenge?
I am so glad you asked that question, because this is precisely the contrast we want to show you. On the one hand, you have a leader who claims to be the hero on the white stallion with his upraised sword saying, I know all the answers, I'll solve all the problems. When he speaks in parliament, his party goes, Modi, Modi, Modi. It's always meh, meh, meh. And for us the slogan is, main nahi hum. We believe in us. We believe in teamwork. We believe in teamwork. We believe that Rahul Gandhi will approach problems with a deep, experienced bench strength of qualified, able people who will work with him and with you to solve your problems. Modi doesn't know all the answers. He's shown that over 5 years of failure. Whereas Rahul Gandhi doesn't claim to know the answers. He says, I will work on the answers, but I'll come with this huge, experienced team of people who are going to work with you and who know the problems. That's the kind of approach. It's team leadership. Rahul and Priyanka will be a team together, and we will therefore serve you doubly effectively.
Are you satisfied with that answer?
With Priyanka Gandhi coming into mainstream politics, is she going to be the new face now? That is what I...
She is General Secretary for Eastern Uttar Pradesh. Rahul Gandhi is Congress President. So there's no competition. These are two different responsibilities.
Okay.
Rahul Gandhi is the leader of the party.
You want to quickly respond. I don't know why, but you're, unless you want Priyanka as your leader too. Go ahead, but.
Look, they say great people discuss ideas, lesser people discuss individuals. I'm looking at the idea. Mr. Rahul Gandhi has had a very extended apprenticeship. He's been at it for a long time. And now with 2 months to go before the election, if you want a new face, well, we welcome that. We'll have 2 apprentices instead of 1. So we are quite happy to go into the next election on that basis.
Okay, let's turn to the next question. Our next question is coming from Priyadarshini. Priyadarshini, you have a question. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Reservation has been a social issue. However, after opening it up for the general category with an annual income of 8 lakhs, which is not really an economic issue, this has become an economic issue. Does this not affect the primary intention of the idea of reservation itself?
Go ahead, Hardeep, Puri, because it's your government that has decided that we are going to give 10% reservation to the general category as well.
let me try to place this in perspective. Any society like ours, which by virtue of the traditional factors, 190 years of colonialism, uneven development, etc., requires to undertake affirmative action at different points of time. But what has happened in the process of taking affirmative action, of which we are not responsible, our friends in the Congress party who've been at the helm of power have been, there comes a time when some people get shortchanged by it. So this is an attempt to provide some corrective by enlarging the base. And I'm absolutely hopeful that this measure, which has been announced recently and will be implemented by all the states, will go quite some distance in providing relief. But at the end of the day, you have to move from this, which is an affirmative action-based society, and all these things are digressive. But we are just now at a phase where, yes, those people required that kind of affirmative action.
Mr. Modi in the opposition opposed reservation. And you come to the government and you increase reservation.
We inherited it. You know, we inherited it. This has been going on for many years, and we still believe that the society is at a stage it requires affirmative action. So you can make a statement out of power, but when you're there and you see the reality, yes, we accept it, and we have tried to provide a corrective to that to some extent.
Do you accept that the government has done a better job by bringing an economic criteria into reservations?
Before that, let me say there was a very revealing statement the minister just made. When you're in opposition, you can say things, but when you come to power, you realize the reality.
I can give you a list.
That's what he said.
I can give you a list of what you have done.
That has been Mr. Modi's... there is an article recently saying that Mr. Modi's most remorseless critic is the Chief Minister of Gujarat up to 2014, Mr. Modi. Because every single criticism of that Chief Minister is coming back to haunt today's Prime Minister. But that is another matter. No, it just shows the cynicism, opportunism and insincerity behind much of the pronouncements of our current leadership. But coming back to the specific issue, Hardeep, you asked, we are proud of affirmative action going back to Dr. Ambedkar, who was the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution, who wrote in affirmative action to undo millennia of discrimination. The OBC reservation, which was extended by a different government, not a Congress government, was also meant to undo social discrimination. Now you've got an economic element, and I might say that that's a valid concern that very many poor people of very modest means suffer because they are competing for a smaller number of positions since they're deemed to be general. That was the logic. But there is certainly room for debate on the 8 lakh figure. If even after doubling the income tax exemption you have to pay income tax after 5 lakhs, then how can people at 8 lakhs be considered economically backwards? Where does the government get that number from? Huh? And I would definitely think there's going to be a judicial test, because the Supreme Court in various judgments has said that you can't just have a blank reservation on one sort of general category. There's got to be a complex matrix of social, cultural, economic and educational factors that go into determining eligibility for reservation. This was when they struck down the Jat reservation case 3 years ago. So my own view is the process has only begun. The government has tried to win votes by passing something that they know is flawed, and we will then see what the judiciary finally settles to do with it.
Let me ask this audience, how many of you believe reservations must stay and you must have reservations? How many of you believe you've got to move beyond reservations? Okay, so in a sense, these are the young of your college who want you to move beyond reservation. The next question.
The question is, how many of them are from communities that benefit from reservation?
Okay, point taken again. Let's turn to our next question. It comes from Suyash. Suyash, you have a question. Go ahead.
So my question is, to what extent do the people in power think that policies like a farm loan waiver or the income support help alleviate the agrarian crisis that's there in the country? And also, why do we observe a strong correlation between the time of announcement of such policies and the election?
Basically, what... Good question. Go ahead, Hardeep, Puri, because it's your government that has now announced the farm loan waivers after discrediting what Rahul Gandhi said.
No, wait a minute. I don't know which government did what. You know, when I was a civil servant still, this is in the run-up to the election in 2009, what I remember is there was a 70,000 rupee farm loan waiver, farm loan which was waived off in one stroke, which is in some ways the mother of all this thing. Look, we need to follow sensible policies. but the kind of policies which have been followed on the agrarian front by a government, by a political party which has been in power for most of the time, that has created a lot of fault lines. Now we are having to deal with that. What we've done in the last 4.5+ years is we have taken a number of measures to alleviate the suffering in the agricultural sector. Minimum support price doubling, doing things in order to put more money in the pockets of the farmers. What invariably happens is you take one set of measures, like you provide more irrigation, farm output increases, price drops, and the farmer is still impoverished. Now, if you take the entire range of measures, I think the agricultural sector needs attention. It is receiving attention from Mr. Modi's government through a host of measures which he himself outlined in Parliament yesterday, but we still have some distance to travel. But the shortcut methods which are being followed by the Congress government, see what happened, for instance, in Karnataka. They made some promises on farm loan waivers, etc., reached out to a few people, and as Mr. Modi said yesterday, why is this flawed? It is flawed because the loan waiver is from the loans taken from the banks, but the really poor farmer takes the money from the money lender, etc. So we have to deal with the entire range of problems, free up agriculture, allow exports to take place, take other measures so that the farming community gets a remunerative return. I'm afraid it's in the cumulative neglect since 1947 for which we've had to pay a price.
Okay, your time is up, but I must correct myself. It's your government which actually comes out with the farm loan waivers. Their government has come out with, they say, a farm income support scheme of 6,000 rupees. So, they are talking about farm income support. You're talking of a farm loan waiver.
Okay, let me start off by saying that a farm loan waiver is at best like a bandage for a bleeding wound. You've got to stop the bleeding first, but then you definitely have to attend to the causes why the bleeding is happening. And the Congress party, because it's a party with very strong roots in this country's farming community, is determined to address the entire range of measures. We are the government that came up with the concept of the minimum support price. This government has been unable to pay it. We have talked about inputs actually being subsidized and helped. This government has been lifting the subsidies. We've been talking in terms of trying to help farmers through serious capital investment in agriculture, fixing the broken credit system, and these are all things we will do at the national level when we come to power. Let me stress the Prime Minister was wrong yesterday when he gave the example of Karnataka. In fact, the Congress Chief Minister 6 months ago, Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, gave as much as 8,000 crores to 22 lakh Karnataka farmers organized in cooperatives. So they did go to banks and get their money. And the current Chief Minister, Mr. Kumaraswamy, in the coalition government, has given a further 6,000 crores to 48 lakh farmers, also in various arrangements, including cooperative arrangements.
How many
The
of
argument the argument the student made is that you make all these promises just before the elections.
No, so
it's only you remember the farmer only at election time.
Both these examples I'm giving you are post-elections. The point is that after coming to power, you're in a position to do it. In an election manifesto,
they make
as
promises
Mr. Puri
prior
himself
to the
has
election,
said,
as they did in Madhya Pradesh, and still don't get 50%.
And we
of the
fulfill
seats.
it. We fulfill all the farm loan waiver commitments, but I am the first one to agree with you, it's not a permanent solution. It is a bandage. We have to actually get to the root causes. And frankly, these last 5 years, this is the government whose Prime Minister pledged to double farmer incomes, instead of which we've seen a halving of farmer incomes, a record number of increasing farmer suicides. We're seeing a situation where the input
suicides
costs
were much
are
higher
going
during
up.
the Congress period, so let's
true.
not go into a suicidal
Not true,
rate.
I'm sorry, check numbers. So the fact is that, unfortunately, their input costs are going up and their prices have collapsed. You're getting prices which are lower than the cost of production.
Your time is up. Your time is up, Mr. Tharoor. My next question comes from Chandan. Chandan has a question, I believe, on education. Go ahead, Chandan. What's your question?
India will become the world's youngest country by 2020 with an average age of 29. But the problem with the young population is that it needs to be supplemented with good education and health. But the public institutions of a country haven't been able to deliver to what they have promised. The proposed Higher Education Commission bill could be a ray of hope. Could you please enlighten us on the similar lines?
Before I come to them, I want to ask this audience, how many of you believe that the education system of this country needs drastic reform? That's the entire audience. And the two of you. Now you answer. Shashi Tharoor, you've been a former HRD minister. You take this first. What is wrong with our education system?
Everything. I mean, the fact is that our higher education system is over-regulated and under-governed. We've got bodies like the UGC that spend their time telling colleges and universities how many classrooms they should have, what size, what number of teachers, what syllabus, no emphasis on quality or on learning outcomes. At school levels, as recently as last year, we've had studies demonstrating that 48% of 5th grade students are unable to read or write or add at the 2nd grade level. There are problems at all levels of our system. They've got to be fixed on a war footing because, precisely for the reason that the young questioner said, we have a demographic dividend, an opportunity we can leap at and take. We have young people when the rest of the world is aging.
So what would you do? What would you do?
So the point is, we would absolutely reform the education system. The Higher Education Commission has not been put forward by the government despite talking about it for 5 years. We would bring forward an education commission, conduct a top-down review by professional educationists, not RSS members and the other kinds who are usually here. We would get people who've done nothing but professional education, come up with a very serious scheme and implement it seriously. Education needs political will as well. And I'm sorry to say, Hardeep, I was in that ministry only for 1 year. I was in MOS. Don't tie the can around my head. There's a lot more that I would love to do, and I'm looking forward to being able to do it.
Hardeep Puri, he's made a serious allegation that you packed education institutes with the RSS people.
Well, 1 minute. We created a university called JNU so that all the commies and the left-wing people could be given jobs there. So if there's some this is when Mrs. Gandhi was the Prime Minister.
Sorry, I don't want to stop you there, but may I just point out Nirmala Sitharaman, your defense minister, is from JNU. So let's not damn an entire university. Let's not damn an entire university.
No, I'm not damning a university. I said the original motivation for creating that. But a lot of very good students come in here. I mean, I was a student at Hindu College, and we produced some fantastic people. But that doesn't mean that every student or every person needs to be characterized. I'm just giving you a thing.
Okay.
Look, if some people other than the liberals who've enjoyed state patronage for 5 or 6 decades, some of them start getting jobs now, maybe they're getting them because of their academic credentials. Maybe they're getting them because there's a reaction to the kind of work on appointments being done by the Congress government before that. I don't know. But let me come to the substance of the issue. Look, on the one hand, you have to create more IITs, All India Institutes of Medical Sciences. That is what the government can do by way of creating educational infrastructure.
But just halve the budget for the IIM.
I didn't interrupt you, Mr. Tharoor, and I can be very nasty to it. Let me not. So don't try it on me. Look, the problem lies within. The problem lies within. You try and reform the education system. Where does the opposition come from? Not for these brilliant students who want better education. The opposition comes from those who are not willing to adjust, who are not capable of adjusting the teaching communities within the universities. They oppose the centers of excellence. There's a whole lot of factors. And believe me, if the Congress party decides not to oppose these things, in the next 5 years we will overturn the education system totally by making it knowledge-based and making it anchored in reality. Why are we studying subjects which have no social or economic relevance? We need to redo the curricula, we need to retrain the teachers, and a host of other things.
Okay, we could debate education separately on another day because there are several steps that both these governments perhaps have failed. But let's come to the next question that we have. The next question comes from Anshul. Anshul has a question. Go ahead, Anshul.
Good afternoon. So, in Congress, a single family has been dominating the party internally. So, what are your views on dynastic politics, and what is the future for youngsters like me in Indian politics?
You want to join politics?
Yes.
You want to
join the Congress party. Unless you're a Nehru Gandhi, don't join the Congress party. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You will. Can I come first?
Yeah, very quickly. Okay, he wants to come first. Okay, go ahead.
I will give you one statistic. From the time Shrimati Sonia Gandhi became President of the Indian National Congress to the time that Mr. Rahul Gandhi took over as Congress President, the BJP had 19 party presidents. That shows you the difference. Number one. Number two, look, I have nothing against individual members. Don't misunderstand me. Jawaharlal Nehru was by any yardstick a great political leader. He helped in India's freedom. Maybe his daughter was also. But I'm not willing to buy the thesis that brilliance and performance can only come from one family. There are others within the party whom I would recommend also. So my position on dynasty is quite clear. Please give your other members of your family if you choose to regard them as such. But then some of them die. You don't even allow their bodies to come to the party headquarters. So this is not, this is a manipulated democratic narrative.
Okay, let him now respond.
First of all, let me say that the last two Congress Prime Ministers were not members of the Nehru-Gandhi family. So if you do wish to rise to the top in the Congress party, there are certainly opportunities for you. Secondly, we are the largest democratic party in the world, so there are an awful lot of members. It may well be that at the top, we have had a certain dominance of one particular party. The DNA of the Congress party is inextricably tied up with the DNA of the Nehru-Gandhi family, and the workers like it that way. Let me tell you very bluntly, if there was a free and fair and democratic election amongst Congress workers, pitting anyone you care to name in the Congress party against our present President Rahul Gandhi would win hands down, and all the others know it. So it's not that there is something inherently undemocratic. This is what the party workers want. If you really don't want to be in that party, then for that reason, by all means, there are many other parties. But then, if you go to Samajwadi, you ideally need to be Akhilesh Yadav or Mulayam Singh Yadav. If you go to DMK, you need to be a member of Mr. Karunanidhi's family. If you go to Shiv Sena, you need to be a Thackeray, and so on and so forth. The fact is that there is something in our political culture.
He says if you don't belong to any family, come to us.
Well,
we will embrace you as part of our family.
Let him respond. Yes.
I can say that we know that one of the reasons the BJP had so many party presidents was one was caught taking a bribe, another one was forced to resign, another one was forced to, it's true, another one was forced to resign when his assets were found to be distributed in various shell companies, and so on and so forth. So it's not exactly a virtue to say the president's changed for such bad reasons. But be that as it may, the fact still is, I understand your concern, but if you care for a political party, it is because the party stands for certain values and performs a certain role with a certain set of principles that advance our country. Those principles are larger than any one individual, and if you agree with those principles, it doesn't matter who the president is.
Basically, I think Anshul was asking you, why can't Shashi Tharoor consider himself as a potential Prime Minister of the Congress Party?
And I would encourage that. And I would encourage that. And I hope you don't get into trouble.
I don't, because I have a finely developed sense of the realistic.
Okay, let's come to Utkarsh.
It might be necessary because many of them are out on bail.
Okay, let's go to Utkarsh. Utkarsh has a question for us. Utkarsh, go ahead.
With the rise in the number of films espousing a particular ideology recently being released just before the general elections, so my question that I'm going to pose is that where do we draw the line between freedom of expression and outright propaganda?
Strong question. Who's going to take it first? Shashi Tharoor.
I think you draw it this side of the accidental Prime Minister. But anyway, no, look, jokes apart, I think that by and large, people have used cinema to advance a particular point of view. So our party chose not to make a fuss about these blatant exercises in political propaganda for the BJP. We could have tried to make a fuss and get it restricted. No, we just said, no, let there be freedom of expression in the country, and especially when people make bad movies and everyone says it's so bad, don't waste your money seeing it, and all the reviews are giving it 1 star or half a star, it doesn't matter how, what the message of the movie is, because a bad movie can only give you a bad message. As far as other things are concerned, we believe that ultimately people are going to vote in their own interests. We believe people know कि हमारे लिए अच्छे दिन नहीं आए हैं. So that is ultimately going to be more important for people to go and say we will vote because we saw a movie in which Anupam Kher did a bad imitation of Hardeep Puri. I mean, that is simply not going to, that's not going to wash, right? So
that's,
okay,
but look, there's another film which they are all citing at the moment, which is a huge hit. Everywhere they go, they say,
And that
how's
is
the Josh?
How's the Josh? Okay, now...
So, our question to that is, how's the jobs, Mr. Modi? Where are the jobs? But,
okay. People who watch films, people who direct films, people who make films or act in them are part and parcel of our society. Okay? Now, since democracy today, whether in normal times, it's not that these kind of films are being made just before an election. They're made all the time. I mean, going back, Mother India in the late 50s or early 60s, etc. Now, how do you relate to this? I think Mr. Tharoor has been absolutely brutally frank with us. They decided not to make a fuss about this, because if they were to make a fuss, what would they make a fuss about? That it depicts reality? That you have led policies, you have pursued policies where the other side tries to bleed you by 1,000 cuts and you don't react, and somebody is reacting, or you Kangana Raut. I mean, these are emotions, human emotion, and I think if a film captures it well, you say, how's the Josh? If it doesn't capture it well, you ridicule them. But whatever it is a film. But I watch films. It's one of the few things I indulge in. And I can tell you, when you see the audience connect on some of those films, you have your answer there already.
Okay, let me then ask the next question to Joyita. Joyita has a question. Go ahead, Joyita.
That how stable do you think a coalition government at the center would be, considering the fact that historically such governments have
different
been...
prime minister, different days of the week.
Finish your question. Let her finish her question.
Historically, such governments have been huge failures. I'm talking about 96 and post that, you know. So what do you think, how stable a government, that to a coalition government at the center, is supposed to be?
Why don't you take that, Shashi Tharoor, since the Prime Minister has attacked you in Parliament to say that this is going to be what, a Maha Khichdi of kinds?
well, frankly, when you're sick, you need khichdi. You know, that's part of the problem. Now, society and policy needs khichdi. But
Maha Milawat, to use the exact word.
But let me just point out for the record that after objecting to my interrupting, Hardeep has interrupted 3 times. But he's interrupted all of you more than he's interrupted me, so that's very nice of him. Let me just say that when you look at coalition governments in our country, we've had all sorts of experiences, and people immediately think in terms of, you know, the short-lived governments of Deva Gowda for less than a year, or Gujral for less than a year, Chandrasekhar for less than a year. But people forget that Mr. Vajpayee led for 6 years a government of 23 parties. It was a coalition. You had the Congress, UPA 1 and UPA 2 for 10 years, and they had coalitions of 20 and 18 respectively. So the fact is that if there is a coalition government with a very strong national party at the heart of it, then it seems to me that it can be just as stable as a majority government. In fact, the interesting thing about the present majority government we've got is no less than 3 of their coalition partners have left them. So you're going to accuse them of instability? No, you'll say because they've got their own majority. Yes, but in our case, we believe that a party with a strong national orientation, a coherent set of policies, agreeing a minimum common program with other parties.
Your time is up very quickly.
May I suggest to the young lady that in that question, which I think is brilliant, just introduce one little qualifier. A coalition amongst whom? A coalition amongst like-minded parties has the coordinates of stability and predictability built in. But please see the negotiating history between the Samajwadi Party and the Bahujan Samaj Party, between the TDP and the Congress, between the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress. They were not hurling abuse and invectives at each other. They did much more. Suddenly they want to come together because the kind of governance Mr. Modi has provided makes them all irrelevant. So therefore this is not just a Maha Khichdi or Milawat. This is an absolute distortion, even in terms of the fundamentals of coalition politics.
Okay. Let me then come to this young man here.
But that means that the Vajpayee government was so like-minded that members of it, like Mamata Banerjee and DMK Karunanidhi, went and joined UPA. That's how like-minded they were.
This young man has our final question. Shaurya, you have a question for us. Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, I come from the metro. And beyond metro, I face a lot of problem of accessibility. There is no one, the footpaths are not properly constructed. As a result of which I have to go on road. And it is not only about me. PWD, sir, why aren't PWD an issue for any of the political parties?
I think that's a very good question.
Very
Why?
good question. Very good question.
You know,
But 1 minute, 1 minute.
and I'm therefore on this question going to give you 1 minute each to conclude the debate. But I'm going to ask you this. Is this election about real issues, or is this about making, throwing political abuse and invectives at each other? Real issues, including those who need the real help, the marginalized of the society. You take a minute, and then Shashi Tharoor a minute. What is this election about? About people like Shaurya, or about Mandir Masjid and the so-called big issues like Rafale?
Mandir is not. I have conducted a series of workshops, seminars for my friends, the citizens who are broadly characterized as differently abled or Divyang, and we have drawn up comprehensive programs to include procurement and last mile connectivity, including at the metro. We are now making it mandatory that there have to be easy gradient for wheelchair accessibility, and I have addressed several groups, and let me assure you the kind of attention we have paid to the differently abled in terms of the urban sector is unprecedented, and we are implementing it vigorously in all our flagship programs.
That is the question also to you, Shashi Tharoor. When it comes to elections, it's all about caste and religion. Why is it not about issues like environment, issues health, issues like education? You will come to this college debate and talk about education. Will these ever become national issues is, I think, what the young want to know. They want a better future. Go ahead.
I agree totally. First of all, let me empathize with the young man. I've been actually very strongly supportive and working with people like the Nipman Foundation, young Nipun Malhotra is in a wheelchair too, on a number of issues involving access. We are now currently objected to the new Supreme Court ruling that prohibits people with disabilities of more than 50% from becoming justices. We have objected to that. There are going to be a number of issues coming up in which we will fight together. I have asked for the government to strengthen the People with Disabilities Act, but very sadly the government has not been able to live up to the expectations of the disabled community, and there is a lot more that the government could do. I'm sure Hardeep's heart is in the right place, but there's a lot more the government could do to be of practical help in terms of access, in terms of job opportunities. Theoretically, many state governments have a 2%, even 3% reservation for PWDs. It almost always goes unfilled. And recently I've had to fight with one of our ministries, and I think Hardeep knows which one, because a blind student passed the UPSC examination but was not taken in on grounds of blindness. There's a lot we have to fight for. But let me agree with Rajdeep, and I think Hardeep will agree with me, the real stuff of why we people like us go into government is to make a difference in real issues. The caste, mandir, masjid stuff, I think is a distraction, and I don't really believe that most people in India care as much about them as the politicians think they do.
Let me ask you therefore then, what's the one thing that you most miss about being 18 and in college again, as you've come here today? What is it that you most miss of college and your days at Delhi University?
The spare time. I mean, one could hang around the coffee house and exchange anecdotes and solve crosswords, go to movies. I'm afraid in my political life I just no longer have time for any of that.
At the end of the day, it all depends on how you like to use your spare time. I mean, and I am very sure.
What do you miss? What do you miss most?
Well, I could give you a less than serious answer. There's a canteen next door. I spent a lot of time there and in the canteen in St. Stephen's College. But that's not serious. I think my 18 and 19, that period was characterized by a lot of uncertainty. There were just 2 or 3 employers at that point of time. There was a government which you could aspire to join the IAS. You could get a teaching job in one of the colleges, or there were 2 or 3 private sector entities where you could hope to join. These guys are lucky. They have an entire range of options, including startups. You could get jobs. You could go into the private sector. You could go abroad for studying. I miss the fact that I had to struggle every inch of the way when I was 18 or 19. I don't miss that. Now this is a different kind of struggle, and I think we all look back to that, and I don't miss the uncertainty. I miss the fun.
Okay, you miss the fun of being back in college, as we all do perhaps, in a strange sort of way. It's been a fascinating debate between 2 excellent debaters, one from Hindu and one from the college on the other side of the road from Stephens. We're not going to say who's won, who's lost, because this was a debate to try and get the two sides to reach out to younger India. I hope you've been enlightened. Thank you both very much for joining us. Give them a very big hand. We'll be back next week with another campus face-off.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.